Hey, fellow traveler. Welcome to the Third Eye Awakening podcast, a show where we talk all about spiritual and psychic awakening, magic, the shift from 3D to 5D, star seeds, ascension, multiple timelines, multiple dimensions, the universe, the multiverse, the Akashic records, all the good things. I am your host, Amy Belair, and I'm so glad to have you here with me today. Okay, let's do this. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to another episode of Third Eye Awakening. Today's episode is an excerpt from the recent live channeled Priestess of the Void, Priestess of the Light transmission that I did. And this message started to come through with great clarity in December and January, but it was, of course, preceded by months and months and months and months of back information that finally synthesized around the turn of the year, of the calendar year. And I recorded it to address it to the priestesses simply because I am a priestess. I carry the priestess archetype and I get information for those who carry the priestess archetypes. However, I believe that this information is relevant to anyone that carries a strong archetype and has chosen themselves for the light. So you could, for example, have a magician archetype, or you could have a healer archetype without necessarily identifying as a priestess or without being a woman. You might be strongly in your divine masculine, regardless of your gender or your sex. And this could still totally apply to you. So I hope that you'll all enjoy it and stick around and listen. But in a nutshell, what I came to understand is that all the work that we've done up until now has been like a dress rehearsal, in a sense. It's been like boot camp, which I've said before, I think in the December energy report. And only now is our true work beginning. These past few years have been like the dry run. And furthermore, I have a feeling that we're still sort of in like our preparation phase right now. And in March is when it's really, really going to pop off. Sorry, I got a phone call. That was very annoying. Anyway, and so essentially, in a nutshell, I feel that those of us who have consciously chosen ourselves for the light, meaning that we are using our incarnation to support the light, to strengthen the light, to anchor the light, to be the light, to bring in more light. We are now being required to do very intimate sort of like dances with the darkness. Some of it will be purely internal, some of it will be external, but both are equally important and necessary. And in this transmission, I talked about basically what this can look like how it manifests in our external lives, meaning probably finding ourselves in very uncomfortable scenarios, very uncomfortable sort of confrontations or altercations or dynamics with other people. It's sort of like our light is causing whatever unintegrated shadow aspects they have, and certainly whatever dark entities are attached to them, to sort of lose their shit and start coming to the surface and sort of, spewing vitriol and all out attacking us. But also it comes in the form of very, very, very subtle manipulations. Narcissists who know how to sweet talk you into bed. You know what I mean? That kind of level of deception. So that's how it manifests externally. On the internal level, it manifests as psychic attacks. It manifests as really intense dreams, or daytime psychic attacks of feeling intrusive thoughts, things like that. And in the entirety of this Priestess of the Void, Priestess of the Light transmission, I share how to deal with this, because this isn't the same as the psychic attacks we've had before. There is a specific way to deal with it. And this is not the same as shadow work, although shadow work is always important to do. And I feel like honestly, as human beings, I don't think in our lifetime we'll come to the end of shadow work. I maybe I'm wrong, and I'm certainly happy to be wrong, truly. But I feel like we'll probably be doing shadow work for a long, long time, because there is so much of ourselves that we've not allowed ourselves to see. But what came through for Priestess of the Void, Priestess of the Light, is a bit of a different beast altogether. And the instructions came through on how to deal with it. If you want to hear the full transmission, you can go to the link in the show notes, and it's there available for purchase. Otherwise, I have no doubt that you will get some really good, important activations and tidbits from this portion of the transmission that is being shared on the podcast today. And then the other thing that I want to talk to you about, that I'm so excited about, I've been working on this, developing it in the background, is my new upcoming Dragon Priestess Mastermind. So this is my highest touch, highest level container, the highest way to work with me, basically, like the most intimate, most supported. It's my inner circle. The only way that you could get basically like closer in working with me is in private mentorship. And I just feel like if you were going to do private mentorship, you might as well do the Dragon Priestess Mastermind, unless you do not carry the Priestess archetype, in which case private mentorship would be amazing. But let me tell you just a little bit about it. So it is a high-level private mentorship and mastermind hybrid, meaning that there is a private mentorship component in the form of quarterly, full 90-minute one-to-one Akashic Soul Oracle deep dive sessions, as well as the option of monthly, shorter, like focused laser calls, personal private laser calls. But we're also working together in a group, and this is a small group of 8 to 12 women. And we are going to have 2 group calls per month. One of them is going to be a healing or an activation, either with myself or like a guest expert. And I already have all the things lined up. I have a lot of the people, the guest experts, like lined up, and it's really powerful stuff. Like, for example, gene keys and breath work sessions, throat chakra healings, cervix de-armorings, Akashic timeline dissolving and healing, as well as Akashic timeline creation. It's just going to be really, really good stuff. Anyhow, we're also going to have 1 call per month that is like, you could call it a hot seat call, basically, where we just mastermind together. We just, we talk at greater length about things. I answer any questions. We just really get into it and come together in circle, in sisterhood. And then we also have a private Voxer group where we are in constant connection with each other and in constant conversation with each other, so that we can really process everything that comes up. The other thing that is truly amazing about this Dragon Priestess Mastermind is that you also, if you join, you get access to all of the live programs that I run this year, including Heartstar Creator. And you also get access to my entire product suite on Kajabi. So that is every masterclass that I've ever done, every program that I've ever done, the psychic activation course, into the Akasha, deeper into the Akasha, magic in the dark. Oh my gosh, I have so many that I literally can't even remember them. Who the fuck am I? So many. And there are even ones that ones that are amazing, I gotta say. Like 5D Magic and Manifestation that I ran live once, and I just have never rerun it again. But I've gone back over the content of that, and I'm like, damn, this is a good program. I'm just trying to figure out what to do with it again. So you just get access to everything that I've done before, and you get access to everything that I do live during our time together. So let me see. The purposes of this mastermind, the reason it's called the Dragon Priestess Mastermind, is because I am feeling the rise of the dragon energy. The dragon energy is not only divine feminine, there's divine masculine dragon energy too, and I will be creating content to talk about what exactly that is. But in a really quick summary, it's an immense amount of power, an immense amount of power that is coming online for those of us that carry the dragon coding. That's the best way that I can put it right now without rambling on and on and on. And so because I am a highly feminine person and I'm a priestess, I am called to help activate and anchor in the power of the divine feminine dragon within the priestess. So this is basically like a place to activate and hone your high level magic, step into your high priestess leadership, and truly claim and embody your divine feminine dragon power. It's a very, very, I've never run anything like this before. I have never felt this amount of power within myself before. And I'm so excited. I'm just so excited to call these women in. There are already a couple who are in, and I couldn't be more happy. It's just, I can feel you all. I feel you all out there, and I'm so excited to walk together through the next 6 months or the next year, shoulder to shoulder in deep, close relationship. I'm so excited to tend to you, clarify your soul mission, help you understand your high level magic and truly hone it, and also help you to claim your power, because I don't know about all of you, but it's been a stretch for me to actually claim my power, actually reach out and take it and own it. And there were a lot of initiations I had to go through in order to prove to myself that I can be trusted with this amount of power. So it sounds really good on the surface, oh yeah, I'm powerful. I want power. And yet the reality of it is that it's way more of a challenge. There is a lot of work to it, especially if you are here for the light. But if you're anything like me, you can't not do it. You can't not accept your soul mission. You cannot not claim your power. And so you're ready to step courageously through these initiation portals and past your own fear limitations, the firewalls of your fear, and step fully into what you actually came here to be. So if this sounds up your alley, if you are interested, if you're excited to learn more about it, then check out the link in the show notes. All the information is there. I'm currently enrolling on early bird for the rest of this week until February 28th, which I think is the last day of the month this year, right? We're not a leap year. So for the rest of this month, we're on early bird. And that means that you will get a really beautiful discounted price, after which it will go up to its full price. And just based on even the access, honestly, just based on the access to everything I've created in Kajabi, as well as all the live programs, never mind the calls that we have together exclusively, or the private calls, or the Voxer sisterhood, but just based on the amount of stuff in Kajabi alone, the price is it's a steal. I'm hesitating because I know that it depends on how you see things and where you are in your money relationship and how resourced you feel, that you might look at it and you might be like, that's crazy. However, I am very confident in the value of my work and the insane number of activations that come through whenever I do any transmission. And so you get access to all of the transmissions that I have recorded in Kajabi. So that alone, total game changer. It will change your life. And like I said a couple of podcasts ago, I've really come to a place where I accept that, like, I've received so much validation this past year, validation that would blow your mind. Someday I will share about it. Like, a couple of the people are going to come on the podcast to share about it, but it's their story to tell, not mine. So I really can't talk about it right now. But when I received their story following our readings about something that came through in our readings, my mind was blown. And I already believe in myself. And so I've accepted that I am a reality creator. I birth new timelines. It is a gift that I have. I understand timeline creation. And if you are ready to fully be activated in all that you came here to be, and you decide to work with me, your life will fucking change completely. It won't just get better. It will get better. But not only will you shift to a new timeline, we will birth a new timeline together. The timeline of your choosing. It is possible. I have replicated it repeatedly for myself and with others. And so if this is it, if you want to get in, if you're like, this is my time, I'm ready, Amy, let's do it, then get in before February 28th, because after that, the price is going to go up. And probably some point after that, the price is going to go up again. Okay, that's it. I love you all so much. I really hope that you find value in this Priestess of the Void, Priestess of the Light excerpt. And please feel free to message me with any resonant experiences you've been having. I've gotten a lot from those who did show up for the Priestess of the Void, Priestess of the Light. Just, they've already been having experiences like this. So I'm sure others of you have been having these experiences too. And feel free to message me about them. Okay, that's it. I love you. Bye. I call upon the highest forces of light to be with us on this call as we receive this information and integrate it into our sense of identity and all the way into our physical selves for complete embodiment. May we take in only that which is of the light and in service to the entire collective of creation on all levels. May we notice anything that comes through to us that is not of the highest light and is not in service to all creation. And may we transmute any of that with love. I start by dropping into my heart center. I just bring my attention and awareness to that space. Opening the heart portal, illuminating the heart star, and opening the channel, the divine channel. I am to the light as the water is to the stream, to the river, to the lake, to the ocean, to the all. I open my divine channel to receive the wisdom, guidance, perspective, and love of benevolent cosmic beings, of divine intelligence, of Christ, Mary, and Sophia, the goddess and the God, the highest angelic beings of the purest white light, the true ascended ones, and of the divine sacred archetypes, the fairies, the devas, and the earth elementals, and of Gaia herself, of spirit guides, soul pods, transition loved ones, the elders, and the ancestors, of high, higher, highest self, and of the absolute and perfect love of the oneness that is source. through my heart, and down through my solar plexus, and up through my throat, down through my sacred sacral portal, and up through my third eye, down through my root, and up through my crown, down into the crust of the earth, through my earth star chakra, and up into my soul star chakra above my head. Farther down through the flora, fauna, mycelial matrix chakra, and up through the stellar gateway chakra, down through the mineral, crystal, and water chakra, and up through the galactic gateway chakra. Down into and through the inner earth paradise chakra, and up into and through the 12th dimensional crystal star chakra, and opening down all the way into the beautiful molten golden heart of the mother, and opening the channel up all the way into the holographic central sun, the cosmic father. And anchoring yourself in each of these poles in the heart of the mother, receiving the luxurious, abundant, bountiful beauty of her Trinity code. And up into the holographic central sun, the cosmic father, and receiving his ethereal, as yet undifferentiated Trinity code, full of pure potential. And now, quantum leap your awareness back into your heart like a bungee jump, where you're still anchored and connected to those two poles, the mother and the father. That you are back in your heart. And in this space, you can know yourself as the Trinity complete. A new Trinity code is created with you as the divine child. For most of us here, the divine daughter. With this realization, your heart star illuminates. Brilliant, beautiful flame of light, dancing and burning and glowing in your heart. And in this space, you also know yourself as the bridge between heaven and earth. And now, breathe into this light, this illuminated heart star, and sort of, I describe it as like blowing it out, almost like you're blowing a bubble, but it's Instead of a bubble, it's this beautiful rainbow crystalline snowflake mandala. This just exquisitely beautiful and utterly unique geometric pattern created from light, the light of your being, the light of your soul in your heart. And it's flowing and kaleidoscoping out around you on the horizontal plane, radiating codes, the purest clarity, the highest frequency, the most exquisite beauty and love. And in the center of that rainbow crystalline snowflake mandala, in the center of your heart, it's a little portal. Like the little hole at the center of a snowflake or a mandala. And it is through this space that you transmute all of your own shadow, all of the collective shadow that you come up against. When you are ready, open your eyes, and I invite you to do your best to hold on to that rainbow crystalline snowflake mandala, that beautiful field of light that you are, and maintain your connection with the Cosmic Father and the Matter Mother for as long as you can. I feel as though our true work is only just now beginning. It's like these past few years have actually been a dry run. We have been doing real work, but it's been the practice work to prepare us for what we are actually stepping into, what we are actually being called into, beginning now in 2023 in earnest. It's an extreme experience that possibly is natural, and we are supposed to have it at some level. And yet, we're feeling the tension of it because it needs to evolve into something else now, and it is in the process of evolving into something else, and we have a part to play in that. And it is not simply, deciding you're a light worker and that's it. There's a much more powerful role that we are being called to play as priestesses. And so what is it, Amy? What are we here to do? How are we to do this? In November, I got pulled down into a level of darkness that was eye-opening on all levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And it peeled away the veil that kept me blind to the depths of the darkness and the evil that exists here. And it's so hard to articulate it. What it did was it also allowed me to see the ways that it has been playing out in my life currently, and has been for some time, that I was just, it's like I had film over my eyes. I couldn't see it. I could see the way it was playing out in the collective, but in my own personal life, I could see little hints of it, but not the whole thing. I was also led, part of this rabbit trail took me down the lens of understanding that comes through sort of like the Judeo-Christian spiritual framework. And I'm aware that there are other religious and spiritual belief systems that have like an equivalent framework, and I just can't speak to them because I don't have any context for it. So it would be wildly inappropriate, and I would totally mess it all up. So I can only speak in the terms that come through the Judeo-Christian lens, but just know that it applies across many cosmologies. So I became like fully aware of Satan as a real consciousness that is not simply a tulpa of our own unintegrated shadow. That is a portion of what's going on here, but there is a concentrated consciousness that is as a being of its own, that is in the Judeo-Christian world we refer to as Satan. There is a counterpart that is of Satan, but not fully Satan, which is Lucifer. There is God, and there is a counterpart of God, which is partly God, but not fully God, which is Christ. I also was brought into like a much closer initiation with the divine feminine and the mother. And what made that period so hard, I mean, like that on its own, that's hard and whatever, but like, I don't know, in 2020, I went through, like, I didn't know about Pizzagate before that. I didn't know about any of that stuff until 2020. So I already went through that part in 2020 of learning about the horrendous abominations and atrocities that are ritually and organizedly committed on a daily basis here on earth to our women and our children, and also to our men. It's awful, it's brutal. But that wasn't really what was the hard part in November and December. What was really hard was recognizing that one of the transmissions I had received in the summer carried a corruption file, and that I had felt it when it came in, but it was so subtle that I wasn't practiced enough to recognize it for what it is at the time. And I had started creating like basically a way to offer this transmission and share it with whoever self-selected for it. So it was the program that I ran, Sorceress the Answer. And 90% of that transmission was like crystal clear, pure information of the light, like true information. And 10% at most was hijacked. And it wasn't even necessarily like it was the tiniest piece of hijacking. And yet that piece, oh man, if I had not recognized it and I had shared that in the way that I had planned to, I don't like to think of what would have happened. Essentially, it was the piece that was calling on us to perform a ritual, a collective ritual to open portals and stargates. And I realized partway through November, like literally halfway into Sorceress, that this was not good information. This was not coming from the light. This was I don't know, it feels like almost like receiving a virus through an email, like a computer virus, like the email itself might not be bad. Like if a hacker is really clever, they won't send it in on some stupid email that not to open. They will send it in on some file that's being transferred to your computer that is otherwise a legit file that you need to open. So that's what it felt like. Like there was this little tag along that came in with that, but it wound its way all the way through all the other information. And what was extremely upsetting for me, and I would even say like it felt terrifying, it was a huge contraction, was to know that it could come in that silkily and smoothly so as to barely be perceptible, and B, it was a very scary moment for me within my own integrity of like, if I missed this, if I very nearly missed it. Like ultimately I did catch it at the last minute, but I didn't catch it right away. And if I missed that, then I was like, am I receiving other corrupted information? Am I transmitting to thousands of people false information that, is here for a darker reason and can cause harm? That was super upsetting. And I had to go through a very intense, like magnified level scrutiny of my own work, my own belief systems, where my beliefs come from, all that kind of stuff. So that's what made it really hard, really, really hard. And to think, and the difficulty was knowing, like, holy shit, have I given out something bad and I can't take it back? After all of that personal inventory taking, I determined that, and this is what I genuinely believe, otherwise I wouldn't even be here doing what I'm doing, that was the only corrupted piece that I got. Other little weird things have come in through just the spiritual new age movement in general. For example, a couple of years ago, I was talking a lot about the flash because I felt this big event coming. I think it probably is coming, but I also feel like a lot of us pick up misinformation that's probably deliberately seeded, about what it's going to be, or like what it actually is, or when to expect it, or whatever, that kind of stuff. I think a lot of that is like a distraction, but it's not a personal hijack on a personal transmission. It's more like seeded into the whole collective framework that we have. So it was a very big initiation, and it also was totally necessary, and it absolutely had to happen, because what it showed me was that like all the beautiful people, all the beautiful women that were in my programs, 1212 and Sorceress the Answer, bless their hearts and souls, like they had to watch me process it, because I was like, well, here we are, and I can't show up and lie to you and pretend everything is great, and then I am not going on this deep journey of questioning the fuck out of everything that I've been talking about. I just have to like show you, even if it makes you like lose respect for me or whatever. You know what I mean? I just couldn't save face. I just had to be totally real with it and very transparent. And on the other side of it, what I realized was like, I think we're all probably going to have to go through our own equivalent of an initiation, around like whatever role we play in our lives, to show us that we can handle the amount of power that is coming in, and to show us where our blind spots are, and where our, like, the chinks in our armor are that allow the corruptions to grab hold, the hijacked files to get in, and potentially like warp what we're here to do. Because I feel that the divine feminine dragon is rising, and the forces of darkness intend to co-opt her for themselves. When I say the divine feminine dragon, what I specifically mean is, okay, so, maybe like 5, 6, 10, whatever, however many years ago, mostly what we were hearing about was the Pleiadians, the Pleiadians, the Pleiadians, the Pleiadians. And I feel like we were onboarding that level of consciousness at that time. And for many of us, it's integrated. I'm not saying they're obsolete or anything like that. I'm just saying like that was their moment where they were coming in. We could feel them with great clarity. I feel like in recent years, at least for me in my observation in so many Akashic readings, podcast conversations, etc., been a lot of Syrian information. Now what I feel that we are shifting into is the Lyran and the Draconian groups, that level of consciousness. And we are all multidimensional beings, so we all have access to that consciousness, as well as the Andromedan. And so I kind of feel like there's this dragon coming in that is part of the Draco group, and it's also interwoven with the Lyran group, and it's sort of overseen. I just feel like the Andromedan field is the Holy Mother, the divine mother. So the divine feminine dragon, that Draco energy in particular, is rising, and the forces of darkness intend to co-opt her for themselves, because I don't believe that this is something that we are just creating by our own like self-initiation, meaning like we are watching the feminine liberate herself on earth, right? And we are participating in it. Probably if you're here and you are interested in the archetype of the priestess, then you know exactly what I mean. But we're reclaiming like blood mysteries and our periods and our hormones and our bodies and our right to like take up space and be ourselves and all that stuff. And what I'm talking about is something that goes in line with that, but it's different. It's much bigger. It's not a choice. It's part of a much greater cycle that we really don't have a say in. So it feels like this divine feminine energy is coming in like in a very big way. Whether we are consciously inviting it in or not. Where there is light, there is an equal and opposite darkness that follows. And in this year of 2023 and beyond, I believe that we will all be called in to dance with the darkness very, very intimately. Some of it will be purely internal, some of it will be external, but both are equally important and necessary. And what you need to know is that this is not a reflection that you are doing something wrong in your life, because it may feel like we are just getting hit, walloped, one thing after the other with encounters with the darkness. And, if we are not aware of what is happening, we can totally spin out in the idea that this is like feedback from the hologram that we're making a mistake or we're down the wrong path or we're doing something wrong. But really what came through to me is like, no, you're not doing anything wrong. It's not a reflection of you, apart from the fact that you are a holder of this level of power and this level of light. And this is part of what the work that we agreed to do when we were here. So the story of the darkness, each and every time you dance with it, is not your story. Do not take it on. Of course, though, because the darkness operates the way it does, it will have wound itself around you with its many tentacles, like an astral octopus or jellyfish. It will have wound its way into your thoughts, and into your mind and the way you perceive yourself, and therefore how you move through life and what you create. And it will be showing you pieces of yourself distorted into a nightmarish version of you that you don't want to see, and it will use that to hide itself. So it's like it hides itself as it holds up warped mirrors that reflect back to you pieces of yourself that are exaggerated and distorted to basically mind fuck you further and deeper into its clutches. So you will think that it's you, that the stories are true, that you're doing something wrong. But in fact, you are a powerful AF priestess performing a delicate rescue mission to extricate yet another piece of consciousness from the darkness. So I feel like I need to talk about power and abuse and boundaries and the dragon. Because as I'm describing this and as it was coming through to me, I realized that the words I'm saying are that you need to prepare yourself to dance with this darkness. It will come up and it will come to you. And this is part of what we're here to do. And of course, if you don't align with this, don't feel like you need to take it on at all. And certainly don't take it on unless and until you're ready. And you are always a being in the fullness of your sacred sovereignty and your free will. And you always get to put your defenses up and your boundaries and say, I can't do this right now. I'm not ready for this, whatever. I'm definitely not trying to force this upon you. I'm just relaying the pieces that we need to know so that when it comes our way, we don't think that it is an indication that we're doing something wrong. So part of what we're doing is, as this dragon energy activates within us, we are claiming an extremely potent level of power, extremely potent. And in no way am I suggesting that because we're priestesses and we're here to transmute the darkness and dance with it and like perform a delicate rescue mission to help transit and extricate another piece of darkness, that we then have to put up with abuse. That's the complete opposite of what I'm saying. We're being called to absolutely put an end to the abuse. This is not about taking shit at all. And you're hearing this from a serial shit taker. It is the exact opposite. It is holding the strongest line imaginable and beyond what you can imagine. The strongest, most unwavering line that will not continue to tolerate shit on all levels. On the micro daily levels of our personal lives and our relationship with ourselves, our relationship with our partners, our families, our coworkers, our bosses, our friends, the world at large, and on macro collective levels. Macro collective levels is a little bit harder in its own way, because then like that leads to a feeling of like, we need to end all suffering, or we need to take down the system. And what I'm seeing through this whole process is that's not how it's going to work. So the not taking shit on a macro collective level means something different in every circumstance, but it's not about trying to, take down the corporation, or, at the end of Fight Club, when the credit card towers fall, it's like, the truth is that the head of the Hydra does not live in the credit card towers. You know what I mean? So that looks like a victory, and yet it changes almost nothing. So that's not actually how we work. So the shit is not tolerated anymore. The standard is set, the line is drawn, and the boundary is held. End of story. That's it. And it is all happening through the heart and the frequency of love. So what we are doing is this. We're not seeking out the darkness. We are letting it volunteer itself to us. So nobody needs to go looking for it or hunting it down. In the in-betweens, when we are not experiencing these dances with the darkness, let's just replenish ourselves, just like give thanks for the peace, enjoy it, revel in it, let our life force bar build up again, take care of our bodies, our minds, our souls, be with our families, our loved ones, laugh, like just be in the beautiful moments of life. It is absolutely essential that we do that. And then eventually the darkness will volunteer itself, and it will reveal itself to us as a scenario that probably feels undesirable. It could be a totally internal scenario, like getting triggered by something you see, something somebody says, whatever, and it sends you off on an inner spiral or a very uncomfortable journey. Or it could be external, like a drama or a conflict with another person. But ultimately, it's all going to come down to a feeling of psychic attack. And that's what you need to be aware of all the time. So for example, if it were an external drama or conflict with another person, let's say, well, I got into a little car accident like a month ago. And it really was not a big deal. Like nobody was hurt, thankfully. The other person's vehicle was not in good shape, but everybody was okay. And that wasn't one of these situations. But if it had been, what I would need to be aware of is, if the person had been hostile, obviously, which he might have had good reason, or if the police officer was hostile, and then noticing the things that would want to be brought up in my mind, and notice wherever it feels exaggerated or distorted beyond the natural reaction of being like, oh shit, I just got into a collision, and feeling like, I should have gone the other way, or like I should have, would have, could have, and insurance and repair costs, that's all normal. But anywhere where if I'd started to feel like that really wanted to take down, my confidence, like several pegs. And if it had started to, lead to, me maybe feeling like not safe in my body, not safe in the world, needing to indulge in some kind of like self comfort habits that aren't good for me, that kind of stuff, and noticing any weird dreams coming up, like that would be an example of the way that this dance with the darkness can come in, sort of like presenting as an external manifestation, but it's like Trojan horsing itself through that scenario. So it could be somebody that that literally is a vessel for an entity also. I got to say that. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that overt. So all of it comes with a psychic attack. And I mean, I'm sure you all know the feeling of getting triggered by something and then spinning off internally. And that is very much what a psychic attack feels like. It's just that internal spin off. And like basically where you feel your energy being siphoned. That is always the hallmark of an entity, is where your energy is being siphoned, your creativity is being siphoned, your health is being siphoned, your peace of mind, your sleep, like just where you start noticing that the baseline that you were used to, where you felt wellness within yourself, is becoming compromised. And sometimes it's gradual, sometimes it's hard to notice, but I have full faith that you're able to notice it just as I am able to notice it. And that, like I just said, I was going through a prolonged period of being siphoned and like having a scenario of darkness in my life that I just couldn't see until like I swear to God that God was like, all right, I need to show you some shit. And that's what November and December were about. So that I could be like, oh my, I see it all now. But siphoning is the hallmark. So really so much of what we're doing when I'm talking about is obviously shadow work. When I mean like shadow work, like shadow work. But there's a very important distinction. Classic shadow work is the process of excavating and exploring your own repressed aspects of self that are often painful truths that we have rejected. So, when people are usually doing shadow work, it's like pieces of us that along the way we didn't feel safe accepting and acknowledging. They were painful. They seem like distasteful or unfavorable aspects of ourselves. And so we rejected it, and it created like, our kind of like our evil twin, right? This work, though, that I'm talking about is acknowledging that we have already done a lot of that work. And I personally believe that shadow work is never complete, but not in a way that makes me feel drained and exhausted, more makes me kind of excited because I've done enough of it that I'm not afraid of it anymore. But that's what I mean. It's like we've done enough of it that we're not afraid of it anymore. This is different because this work is about staying strong and clear through the process of being essentially attacked by dark entities as they confront us with manipulated distortions about ourselves. The reason that they attack us is because we have chosen ourselves for the light and chosen ourselves as holders of the light. So on one hand, we are an enemy to their ultimate plans. And I guess this is a good place to say, well, on one hand, we're an enemy to their ultimate plans. And on the other hand, because we're very powerful, we are very powerful. We would make excellent, highly desirable recruits, trophies even. So I guess this is a good place to talk about what I mean by the darkness and, like their plans. And essentially what I feel is happening. If you want the full story, then just listen to my January 24th solo episode on my podcast, where I kind of talk about like my whole, theory about like what the angelic beings are and the fallen ones and all that stuff. But you don't ever have to see it that way. I am not stating this as if it's some kind of fact. It's just the way that my mind interprets it and organizes it so that I can understand it. It's a narrative that I use to basically navigate completely non-physical energy. But essentially, what I perceive is that there is as I said, like there is a concentrated sort of, I can't call it a singularity because it exists within duality, but it's like within the realm of darkness, there is a singularity. Within the realm of light, there is a singularity. And in the realm of darkness, that singularity is Satan. That's the word that I use to understand it. But again, there are probably equivalent words in many cosmological worldviews that you could sub in if this sounds too Bible-y for you. But I'm just going to use these terms. So there is a singularity within the dark, a concentration of a consciousness that is a being of its own, that we refer to as Satan. And then within the field of light is the being that we refer to as God. And in this case, the God, like God, because we have the word goddess, it can sound like God is, and then especially in Judeo-Christianity, it's always referred to as God the Father. But I believe that both Satan and God are outside of gender. So it's kind of like we don't, because our language requires pronouns, we refer to God as he. You know what I mean? But it's not actually that. It's just like a concentration of consciousness that has its own like creator abilities and ideas. So God is a creator. Satan is an imitator. And what I perceive is that when this realm was created, which I think is this bandwidth in the third and fourth dimensional bandwidth, not just Earth, but everywhere that manifests in this little bandwidth of consciousness. I believe that it was created to be Eden, meaning that it was created to be almost like God's highest, most ultimate, beautiful creation, where God could basically like create tiny little versions of itself that have free will to go be immersed within creation. That's us. and every being that lives here. We get to be immersed within creation. But the thing that I believe sort of sets humans apart, and in no way would I suggest that humans are more intelligent than all life on Earth or anything like that. We know that like cetaceans are highly intelligent. Octopi, you know what I mean, are highly intelligent. There are many sentient and asentient beings that are highly intelligent. But what sets humans apart is that we are able to create. We're very powerful creator beings. And so we got given this Trinity code gift, this trifecta of being immersed within creation, being able to create within creation, and having the free will to do it on our terms. And the angelic beings were not given those gifts. It's outside of the purview of what I want to talk about here, but I did get a very interesting download about why the angels were not given those gifts. It is nothing like what we would think. It's a very beautiful answer. But so then there's a group of those beings who were created before humans and third dimensional residents that got really pissed when we were created with the ability to create and experience creation and have free will. And they decided they wanted to basically like take that for themselves, essentially, and just like, you know, flip the double bird to God and be like, you God, and like this, and you know, just come be like, this is my realm. I'm Lord here or whatever. I don't know. Anyway. And so essentially there is within the forces of light, it is the willingness to, even though we have, like we as humans have free will, but there are obviously a lot of beings and a lot of levels of consciousness that aren't human and so have varying levels of free will or not. But everybody who has chosen themselves for the light, we are willing to, how do I put it? Braid ourselves harmoniously with the highest timeline for all, if that makes sense. Whereas the dark and their ultimate plans and all that I'm referring to, they do not desire to braid themselves harmoniously with the highest timeline for all. They want the highest timeline for themselves on a whole bunch of different levels. It's all arranged within a hierarchy. It's pretty intense. So we are holders of the light. We have chosen ourselves for the light. We offer our lives, our bodies, and our gifts for the highest truth of the highest love, which is the highest light. And if this doesn't apply to you, that's okay. I love you anyway, but I'm just going to keep talking as though we have all chosen this. It's your free will choice, though. So in our priestesshood, we have chosen this because we have trained for it. We don't choose the light simply for our own salvation. I am not concerned about my salvation. I'm in conversation with a friend who really wants to convert me to Christianity because he's concerned about my salvation. And I'm like, I am not concerned about my salvation. That is not what concerns me. So I'm not saying you can't be, but I think as priestesses, something that we all share in common is that it's more than just our salvation. We don't hold the light so that we can sit above the earth on fluffy clouds of unwavering joy. No. We've chosen the light so that we can be part of the process of basically cleaning up the mess that is being experienced. It's like we are progressing a natural cycle that is bigger than us. We have volunteered and we have trained to be living portals to end the suffering of this nightmare of extreme duality as it currently exists. The nightmare of extreme duality has had its time, and its time is coming to an end. Not as our decree as humans being like, it's over, it's done. This is just a bigger cycle generated by a larger and higher level of consciousness that we are not privy to. We have simply decided to align with it. So we are cooperative with it. We feel the difference between the dark and the light. And that is what we want, the light. As it comes to an end, more and more consciousness moves towards either extreme. The gray zone is disappearing. So this is something that can also make it totally look like we're failing. Like we collectively are doing something wrong to produce all of this polarized chaos, but it's just part of the process and it's unavoidable. It's very hard to witness. I agree. And yet we are like energetic medics that are able to be deeply, deeply present with those around us who are confused by the chaos, who don't see it with the clarity that we do, and who are experiencing it as suffering. Each quantum of consciousness has to choose which direction it is moving, either towards the dark or towards the light. The beautiful thing is that both paths lead to the same destination, which is the return to the oneness that is all, which we call God. But though the destination is the same, the journey will be very, very different depending on which path we take. So it does matter which path we choose, and it doesn't at the exact same time.
Well, that's a wrap. I truly hope that you enjoyed the episode and that you got some good activations, insights, and inspirations from what was shared today. I want to remind you that you can review the show on Apple Podcasts for a chance to win a free 45-minute Akashic Records reading with me to be shared on the show. Just remember to screenshot your review before you submit it and send it via email to amy@thenorthstarguidance.com to be entered into the monthly draw. I want to thank my Patreon members from the bottom of my heart for supporting this show. You guys, you cannot possibly know what your support means to me. Seriously. If everything else in my business had to be shut down, the podcast is the thing that I want to keep going, and your support means that it can keep going. On Patreon, I share bonus conversations, gifts from my guests, weekly dope-ass energy reports, quarterly group hug calls, and more. To become a supporter, use the link in the show notes and head on over to my Patreon. And I want to give a shout out to May, who edits all of these podcasts, as well as the Goddess support team for all that they do to keep this operation running smoothly. Finally, I want to thank you, beautiful listener, for the valuable currency of your time and attention. I do not take it for granted. You are a powerful creator, and may everything in this podcast serve you in your highest creations. Your listenership means the world to me. Truly, truly. Without you, I would just be talking to myself. So, my beloved listener, have a beautiful day or night wherever you are, and I will catch you on the next episode.